What do you need to begin to feel safe again with these areas that you don't trust? And so that's your responsibility. Because if you don't ever check into this, if your trust was broken, your partner can't necessarily meet that need. Welcome, my name is Jessica Lewis. I'm the founder of Rise Up Queens, where I help women step into the freedom that Christ died for. Here on this channel, you will find many topics on physical intimacy, porn and working through that in your marriage, communication, triggers, and so much more. I hope you dive in with me and subscribe and create the best marriage you possibly can with your spouse right now. So today we're going to dive into healing through infidelity and broken trust. So I think this video would be applicable to both husbands and wives. It doesn't matter whether you broke the trust or your spouse broke the trust. We're going to talk about things that will help both of you. So one of the things that I hear so often is, I can't trust them, right? So let's say they broke trust and someone's healing in it. One of the things that's repeated every time, 2 years later, 3 years later, 5 years later, is I can't trust them. And so part of this in the beginning, if your infidelity was recent, or even if it wasn't, to begin this process, what the person is saying is, I can't trust them with everything, right? And so we're going to get into what that actually means. But in the beginning, oftentimes when spouses go to disclose broken trust, they say, hey, I did this, and they throw it over the other person. And then the other person catches it and their world turns upside down. Right? What they perceived as reality, how they've lived their life, their worldview completely gets shattered. And justifiably, it's shattered, right? And then as they try and sort it out, at least for me, when Skylar was unfaithful, my brain went to, okay, well, I need to know all the details. And oftentimes when I talk with spouses about this, they're like, why do they need to know all the details? I don't want to answer all these questions. This doesn't feel good. And I say, yes, it might not feel good, but if you don't answer all these questions, the story that I made up, or when questions got answered with, I don't know, the story that I made up is that you're holding back from me and I cannot trust you. So, because when trust is broken, or there's a betrayal, or there's infidelity, it creates this wedge to where you then begin to question, or the person that it's broken with begins to question, how did I miss this one? And what else have I been missing? And so these questions don't come from this place of, I want to make you wrong. I want you to pay for this. Like, they're not revengeful. They're literally sorting out in their brain, what else could I have missed? I need to gain control of this, right? I need to know where I'm at with this, because their world and their foundation was just completely shaken. And so the way that your spouse is going to begin to put together the pieces of that foundation is asking the questions, knowing who you are. And so some of those questions are not going to be easy, like, what did you search? Who did she look like? How many times? Like, details that you're not going to want to go into, and she might not want to know afterwards, but it's going to be part of the healing. And so my challenge to you would be to lean into that sooner rather than later, because if you lean into it later and stay and keep them with lots of questions, them saying, I just can't trust them, will perpetuate longer. And so let's say infidelity has been for a while, or let's say that it hasn't, and you have the feeling of, I can't trust them. What I would challenge you to do is, can you check into what you do trust them with? Because trust is a very blanket statement, or I can't trust them is a very blanket statement. Can you trust them to come home? Can you trust them to take care of your kids? Can you trust them with your emotions during the day? Can you trust them to take the trash out? Like, can you trust them to be faithful? There's like such varying degrees of what can I trust them with, right? And so step one would be to get clear on, what can you trust them with? Because if all I'm focused on is I can't trust them, guess what my brain is going to do? Gather all the evidence of why I can't trust them. That's all I'm going to see. And so if you want to begin to heal, you might need to change your perspective and begin to look for different evidence once you're willing, right? And so what can you trust them with? So can you trust them to come home? Can you trust them with the kids? Can you trust them to take out the trash? Can you trust them today to not watch something inappropriate or not be unfaithful? What can you trust them with? And once you have that list, then it brings great awareness, and then you add to the next list. What can I not trust them with yet? And maybe this isn't a never, but it's a yet. Today, right now, what don't I trust them with? And then you have appropriate evidence that you can be gathering. And then in your brain, you know, okay, I can trust them with these things. I can't trust them with these things. And then you begin to go get healing around these things or ask for what you need. And so in order to heal these things that you don't trust, boundaries will need to come in place. Maybe, like if there's areas of temptation for your partner, maybe boundaries for you would make you feel safer and make you be willing to try to trust in this area. And so does their phone do you need to know the password to their phone? Do they need to have certain softwares on their phone so they can't view certain sites? Do you need full access to things? Do you need them to tell you when they feel a temptation in some area? What do you need to begin to feel safe again with these areas that you don't trust? And so that's your responsibility. Because if you don't ever check into this, if your trust was broken, your partner can't necessarily meet that need. And so there's a very clear distinction that you'll need to pay attention here, right? So are you going to expect them to then meet this 100% of the time? Right? What's the expectation around these broken boundaries, right? Or broken trust things? Do you expect them that they have to meet it 100% of the time or else, right? Or do you know that they're an imperfect human being and that they may falter on this? So you having accurate expectations would definitely help you. Because let's say in the arena of porn, I have wives that their husbands are making tremendous progress on porn. Like they went from watching it every day to now they struggle once a month, like tremendous progress. But guess what that wife often pays attention to? That one time. So this dude makes progress 29 days of the month and then messes up one time when he used to do it every day, and she crucifies him. Like it is like it hashes back up all this past stuff. And I'm not judging that wife or that husband because I used to be them. But I had to gain perspective on, am I expecting him to be perfect in this arena? And is that a realistic expectation that I can have? Like that's my responsibility, my expectations and what I'm trusting. And so are they making progress? And can you be appreciative and loving of the progress while they begin to change? Or are you only going to love them and trust them once they are 100%? Or can you trust that they're going to do great 1 in 30, right? Or 1 in, I don't know how many days are in a half of a year, 182 days a year. What can you actually trust them in? Because you can trust them in some things, but when we blanket it to I just can't trust them, we miss these opportunities to see goodness and to see progress. So another thing around this arena is can you forgive me? And you admitting it doesn't heal the pain. It starts the journey. And so when trust is broken like this, it can be a long journey that couples have to go on to repair this. A super long journey. And so can you create a space for your spouse to share these things? So when they get triggered because of broken trust in the past, are you willing to sit in it with them? Or the other thing that I see is people are like, what the heck? Why can't you get over this? And they act like a total jerk or a bitch. Right? So how are you going to handle when this gets brought up? Because it's going to get brought up. Unless you're married to someone that's extremely avoidant or they're living in fantasy land, broken trust and betrayal is going to hurt for a little bit. Now, there's ways to accelerate this process and speed up the healing. One of the ways is a Rise Up Kings event and a Rise Up Queens event, the events that my husband and I run, where we create and facilitate healing individually around these things and then have couples come together as a couple to repair and start new. And so we've walked lots of couples through infidelity, broken trust, all of that stuff, and they are better now than what they were before. But they have to be willing to get in it together and not get bitter or resentful when a partner isn't over it yet, because you don't get to control how long it takes for them to get over it or how long it takes for them to heal. because you were part of that problem. And so a great way to sit in that with them isn't why are we coming up with this? Why often isn't a great question. You don't really get much with why or get to many places with why. But a better question would be, I wonder what could be going on for them. If I were in their situation, could I see how they'd feel like this? Can I put myself in their shoes and see, oh yeah, with their upbringing, with the way that their father raised them, with the way their mother raised them, with their childhood, and then me doing this and their life, does it make sense how they're responding the way that they are? Yeah, it probably does. So someone's past and their childhood definitely leaks into marriage when trust and betrayal happens. And so they might forgive you, but it might take years for you to reconcile together. And so last thing I want to leave you with, and I'd love for you to share this with your spouse and just create an open dialogue around this. Last thing though is when your spouse brings up something, it would be great for you to not blame them for it. Let's say that you're the one that did it. The worst thing for you to do is to say, oh, well, it was because of you, right? Because you're a grown individual and you made those choices. So that they may play some role, have some responsibility in it, but the fault would be on the person that did it, not the other partner. But what I see so often is someone confessing, this is what I did, and they don't like that feeling. They don't like the shame, they don't like the guilt. And so in order to alleviate themselves of that, what they do is they put it on their partner. But that's super ineffective, and it's going to delay the healing time that your partner is going to go through. So do not blame your partner when they bring stuff up. It'd be great if you didn't get angry and just owned that, this is going to be something that we might go through for a while, and I'm in it with you, and I'm committed to you because I'm the one that caused this. So on both sides, definitely share this with your spouse or share it with a friend that's going through this, and just know that there are resources out there. So Rise Up Kings is an event for men to step up in their faith, family, fitness, and finance. How do they lead themselves and their families at the highest level to glorify God? And at Rise Up Queens, I would love to train women, or I do train women, to step into the women that God's calling them to be. And oftentimes that's being rooted in their identity in Christ. It's rooted in like who God says that I am and my relationship with my body, right? My naked body. And for some women, their bodies don't feel safe. And so we do a lot of healing around that. We work through anger, we work through forgiveness, we work through how we cope and how we keep people at a distance. And we work through fun and playfulness and have a blast. So much stuff. So really, in both programs, learn how to walk out what it's called to be a Christian, right? Because you can go to church and you can love the Lord and still be a very ineffective Christian. We want to see extremely effective Christians in living out the fruits of the Spirit and who God's called us to be. So definitely subscribe if you're not subscribed. Send this to your spouse, and I'd love to hear what stood out to you.